All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and get started officially here. So we're here today to talk to you all about our brand new program, semester program in Norway called Social Systems, Sustainability and Justice. And just a quick little overview. Today we'll go ahead and do just a brief introduction of us and who we are, the folks that will be presenting to you today. An overview of the program, which is really the bulk of the presentation. It's going to include a lot of information. The theme of the program, our experiential learning, excursions, the location that we're in. We have a partner on the ground in Norway we will talk about. Our courses we're going to offer, housing and health and safety. So it's a lot of information, but I do hope at the end to leave some time for questions and answers. And then I'll also let you know how you can meet with us at NAFSA this year if you are going to be joining NAFSA New Orleans. And just a quick couple little webinar housekeeping reminders. Please keep your microphones off while we go through the presentation to limit distractions. At the end of the presentation, we will have some Q&A time, so you can unmute yourself at that point if you'd like to ask questions. You can also drop your questions in the chat box. If we don't get to the question right away, or if I don't see it, we will try to circle back to it during the Q&A time, of course. And just a quick reminder, we are recording the webinar. We've been recording since we jumped on. So FYI, I'll be sharing this to folks who couldn't make it, or for folks that might have to leave early, or want to share it with others on their campus. All right, so introductions. Who is going to be presenting today? My name is Lucy Hardiker. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for CGE Marketing and Recruitment. This will be my 10th year with Augsburg this summer, and a lot of you folks on the call might know me. I essentially tell people about our programs, so I'm doing my job today. Check mark. Bettina, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself today as well?
Sure, will do. Thank you, Lucy. My name is Bettina Hoff Hermansen. I am the Director for Norway Hub here at Augsburg, and also the Director for ISSS, so International Students Studying at Augsburg. I was myself an international student way back when, and from Norway, and I graduated from St. Olaf in '93. I've been at Augsburg since 2014. Actually, my first job here was teaching Norwegian, both language and culture. So I'm happy to be here today. Leah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leah Espinosa de Vega, she, her, ella. I'm the Executive Director for Global Initiatives here at Augsburg. I've been at Augsburg for 15 years, and really excited to be a part of the program development team, and working with our partners in Norway. So this will be fun.
Thank you, Leah. I'm going to do a really quick introduction to Augsburg and CGEE programming for those of you that aren't as familiar with us. So we have been a program provider for over 40 years, and we are a program provider that's situated in a university. So some people might know us as Augsburg, and some people might know us as CGEE. So if you kind of hear us go back and forth, historically, we've been called one or the other of those things. We've been providing high-impact experiential programming in Africa and Latin America, and more recently, Europe. And our programs, no matter where they are in the world, are all designed to learn from communities and groups working for social change to inform thought and action for personal and societal transformation. We do this through a variety of semester and summer options, and we also do customized faculty-led short-term programs as well. So we kind of do it on all different sides. Just to give you a little overview of who we are, I think some of the folks here are pretty familiar with us, and some people maybe not as much. So let's talk about how we're going to do this in Norway. Now that I told you what we do, let's talk about how we're going to do it in Norway. So our brand new program has the title Social Systems, Sustainability and Justice in Norway. We do intend to offer this program every fall semester and every spring semester, and it's going to begin in the fall of 2025. So we have a little bit of time ahead of us now to start thinking ahead to the first program. So the program you can see in our title, we like to title our programs with a little bit of a theme of what our program is going to be talking about. So it gives you a little bit of an idea right there in the title. Often we hear in the US that Norway a lot of times gets called one of the world's happiest countries, and we think, well, why is that? Let's dive into some of these things as to why. And some folks might think it might be the social systems or the social welfare state that they have set up. It could be their commitment to sustainability, environmental practices, and things like that. So we're going to kind of dive into all of those topics from a Norwegian point of view. We also really hope to talk a lot about the climate crisis and pending environmental justice issues and sustainability. We hope to do this by talking with folks who live in Norway, meeting with people, and engaging in the community as much as we can. So that brings me to my next point. A lot of what we like to do is experiential education. And we hope to do this in Norway, just as we do in all of our programs, by including excursions, guest speakers, organizational visits, some of which are going to be in Oslo, which we'll learn later. We're pretty nearby, about a 40-minute train ride away. To visit places like the Oslo City Museum, the Nordic Folk Museum, and other places, so students can hear and learn about the history of Norway and how things were set up, and then actually go out and experience different ways of how that came about, talking with folks who work in those places. We hope to have some bigger excursions, longer excursions to places like in the West Norwegian fjords, where is not only just beautiful, but will also tie into talking about the oil industry in Norway and some of the things, some of the contradictions that we see of being a very green and sustainable, environmental friendly country, but also making lots of money from oil. So we're going to dive into some of those issues and topics that students might not be as familiar with on the surface. In terms of guest speakers and organization class visits, I will share the syllabi with you all as well after this presentation. You'll see some of these things right in the syllabi. Places like going to a furniture upcycling factory that actually works with our partner in OUC to talk about some of those sustainability efforts. I mentioned before some of the museums and places we're going to go in Oslo. And we do also hope to visit the Nordic Council in Copenhagen to talk about how other Scandinavian countries deal with issues of immigration and environmental sustainability action. So those are just a few of the ways that we hope to engage your students on the ground in Norway. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Bettina to tell you more about the location.
Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, so again, this location is in the city of Fredrikstad, which is just a little bit south of Oslo, 60 miles. And like Lucy said, it's about a 40-minute train ride. And the trains, I think, run hourly, and maybe during the high traffic time that they will run even more frequently. So and there's also buses that go into Oslo and other areas too. It is a mid-sized and urban city with about 80,000 people. It is a beautiful part of Norway. You have obviously access to the Oslo fjord where it's located. There's tons of islands right outside of Fredrikstad. There is also lots of forest. So in terms of just the outside area, it's just really, really beautiful. We are close to Sweden. Obviously, you can see there on the map that Sweden is like right to the right of the red dot. And of course, the distance to Denmark is actually also very, very close. The location was really chosen for many reasons, but partly because of OUC and our partner. This has been a partner school to Augsburg for a long time, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, the proximity to Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, and also the closeness to Sweden and Denmark. It's a very walkable town with access to public transportation, so buses I don't think they have, oops, could you go back just this? Oh, okay. They have buses and also bikes for rent. I don't think there's any trams there. I'm pretty sure that they don't have trams. We are going to be located, or Fredrikstad and OUC is located right on Glomma, which is the biggest river. And so here you can see some of those pictures. There's lots of boats. There's also a ferry called the City Ferry that takes you to lots of different points of Fredrikstad, and it's a free ferry that runs all the time. I think it ends at 11 and starts up again at like 6. So there is an urban area right in Fredrikstad with lots of stores. And then there's also a little town called Gamlebyen, which means old city. That you see some of these images are from here. So the red building to the on the right hand left or right hand bottom corner. And of course, many restaurants for students to enjoy as well, and easy access to stores such as grocery stores, movie theaters, and things like that. So if we move to the next slide, one of the things obviously with programs like this is that we would like to have our students be as engaged in the community as possible. Many of you know that CGEE cohorts kind of travel together, so we will obviously be our own little cohort, but we will make sure that we arrive and that the students arrive during and before the week of the orientation week, which is a long week of, I think, orientation week that we have probably most on our campuses as well, but a time to get to know each other, a time to get to know new students on campus, and really a bonding week. So that's going to be hugely important for us to be a part of. You will see later too that part of our curriculum and courses is that we would like to have domestic students also participate in those. And so we will have integrated group projects and collaborations with those students. The residence halls will also be with OUC and domestic students. The OUC location that we have chosen to be sort of our host and main campus is in Fredrikstad. OUC has 2 campuses, and one is in Halden, which is also a little bit further south, but there's a campus there, and they host most of the international students, and we will gain access to their events as well. So those are some of the things in terms of community engagement. Did we freeze maybe? There we go. So our partner in Norway, I said a little bit about this, but it's called Østfold University College. It has 2 campuses, one in Fredrikstad and one in Halden. It is about a 7,500 student campus with about 350 international students. This is data from 2022. They have many disciplines from health, welfare and organization, computer science, engineering, economics, teacher education, and languages, and Norwegian Theatre Academy. One of the reasons why we really chose OUC was part of it is they have sent students to Augsburg in the past as a part of our exchange partnership, and we've sent students to them. When we started developing this program, I was actually in Norway, working from Norway for a year, and I was lucky enough to sort of figure out like what schools could potentially be a partner to this new program in Norway. And OUC from the very, very beginning just was a university that were extremely excited. They were excited about thinking about mobility, not just as sending their students out, but actually hosting international students on campus. We've had obviously several meetings with their rector, their deans, their pro-deans, and also professors. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have been there to kind of get to know their campus. And then we've also had a delegation from OUC coming to Augsburg. And one of the things I think excites me is that we just have a lot of buy-in from the people there, which is going to make this partnership fairly smooth. And just in terms of texting and coming and just being sort of like really interested in what we do. And they really believe in Augsburg's mission and CGEE's mission, and think this will be a really great add-on for their students as well. So that was one of the reasons, obviously, in the location, being close to Oslo, we'll have access to Denmark and and Sweden. And being in Oslo, we'll also have, obviously easy access to the airport there, so that we could potentially travel to other places in Norway as well, as we're figuring out the most convenient places for excursions. And at the same time, students will then be able to travel on long weekends to other places in Europe as well, if they are interested in those kind of things. Anyways, that's a little bit about our partner school. So extremely happy about being a partner and finalizing that MOU with them, which we did this summer. And you can see here, we have a picture on the left-hand side, which is their rector, Lars Petter, is to the far left. And then there is the vice mayor in the middle, and then our president, Paul Prebenau, on the right. And then we went to Gamlebyen and had a beautiful lunch outside in, historically old buildings, which was also great. So one of the reasons why we chose Norway too is that there's not a lot of programming for a semester in Norway. Augsburg was founded about 153 years ago by Norwegian immigrants. So it's always been important for our university to continue our ties in some way, shape, or form. We do think that the Nordic countries and Norway have a lot to offer in terms of social welfare, environmental sustainability, and so forth. And of course, seeing the juxtaposition of how they're able to do that, but also the philosophy and the sort of the social justice that it was based upon in terms of foundation. And then we have been creating courses with the OUC faculty as well, and so that's happened via Zoom and also in person. And Leah will talk a little bit about those. But it's been not just us creating courses, but also like tapping into the resources that they have at OUC and making sure that that what we are hoping to develop can be developed there, and also getting the support that we need. Just quickly showing you here our faculty from Augsburg, Dr. Andrew Aoki, Dr. Nancy Fisher, Dr. Leila Tajibova, and Dr. Michael Lansing have been very key in developing the courses that you will hear about in a little bit. All of them, except for Leila, were able to travel to Norway last year. And then from the OUC side of things, we have Dr. Gunnar Andersen, Dr. Kari Anne Fange, Dr. Frode Ramstad Johansen, Morten Hellberg, Dr. Harald Borgebund, and Bengt Morten Maximilian Vensbø. So again, lots of interest from them and great support throughout this whole process. So wanting to share those names and faces with you as well makes it more real, right? So that is our partner in Norway, and a little bit about just what we have and how we have communicated and how we collaborated in terms of course development. So I will hand it over to Leah.
Great, thanks, Bettina. Yeah, and I will say the course development process was so collaborative. It was an amazing process to see how these faculty from both institutions got together and started with one idea, and how they morphed and complemented each other. I've never seen such a creative and energetic process, and so yeah, I'm just really excited about what they were able to develop with some of our input as well, of course. So as if you're familiar with CGEE, our programs, you'll know that they are experiential and not just the buzzword experiential. I mean, they're truly experiential, where these courses will be strong, very academically rigorous, and we are going to be making those students reflect and analyze and act, right? And so we're not just saying it's experiential because they do things. It's because it truly is following best practice in experiential education. So that I just want to highlight. And our setup is I think really it's not completely unique, but I do think because we're going to have 3 courses, you know, 3 in a bit here, 4 courses that everyone will take, our students will take as a cohort, like all of our Augsburg CGE programs. So, and they will be integrating in certain ways with our OUC partner students as well. And so, as you can see, the titles here, you know, so we have a course of political science and sociology, cross-listed program, contemporary Nordic issues, and so we're going to be looking at Nordic approaches to social issues and challenges of the 21st century. And the topics are going to kind of vary too, as you know, from semester to semester, as we are going to be contributing to projects, topics around like the European Green Deal, and contribute to work and projects that are being done for the European economic area that Ostfold is currently engaged in. So that's really exciting. We'll be looking at issues of, you know, national identity, gender equality, renewable energy, and things like happiness and wellness, and those concepts that are you know, unique and that we also share. So looking at those commonalities and the similarities across in Norway, or in the Nordic, it's not just Norway. We will be looking at Nordic countries in general. Let's see. So yeah, and they'll be doing research, social science research, and all of these programs, all of these courses will have excursions that are, you know, thematic. So we will be going, as Lucy said, to key areas like the Nordic Council, to look at contemporary Nordic issues in different perspectives through the different countries, as well as looking then at how that plays out in the United States. Let's see, so then we have a history course, making the modern welfare state, Nordic and US approaches. So it's, you know, it's social, political, cultural history, comparing the origins and trajectory of welfare states. So that is really will be really interesting. We'll be looking again at that comparative Nordic and US approaches. And looking at, you know, how did these distinct models of social welfare come about from a historical perspective, and looking at things like the significance of nationalism and war in shaping the Nordic welfare models. And then there are times in history where the US and say Norway had very similar approaches, and then the war sort of sparks this divergence, and we're going to be looking at what the war, being World War II, you know, how that occurred, what were those components that made that divergence happen. And then this next course, environmental innovation and sustainability. This is sort of our environmental economics course, really interesting, looking at the sort of the essential role of economic policy and technology innovation in attaining environmental sustainability. So we'll be using, you know, all of these are interdisciplinary, and they're all kind of woven together, but they are distinct. So we'll be looking at different tools to understand the environmental challenges and issues, and then suggesting potential solutions through like nature smart policy applications. And one of the more interesting things here in this part too is looking at that contradiction of how can you be such a green country and have, you know, and be such a huge exporter of oil. How did Norway do that? How do they sort of reconcile that contradiction? So that will be a fascinating course. And One thing that's interesting with these courses is we really made this so that anyone can jump into the courses, even though there's a high level of rigor. You don't have to have a lot of prerequisites in order to begin with these courses, because they build upon each other. And then finally, we will be integrating the Global Competency Certificate, which is through AFS, their Global Up modules. These are online modules, but we will be mapping those modules over to the topics in the program. So at certain points, we'll be looking at gender, we'll be looking at, power and privilege and how those play out in all of these topics. We'll be looking at identity, nationalism, how does that play out? And then the global, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Global Up, but it is truly a great model, because it's building intercultural competence through reflection again. And we've found that we've had really good success using this, students advancing, in terms of IDI, advancing an entire orientation over a semester. So that's something that is really a bonus here in this program as well. So this will be 13 credits. 13 credits awarded from Augsburg University. Then students will also be able to take electives at OUC. We will also issue transcripts from Augsburg to make that process easier for study abroad offices and for students, of course. And you can see here in the fall, we'll have Norwegian language. We'll have the option to take a development of green sustainable business models, corporate communication, which you might think that's a weird class to take. What does that have to do here? But that, looking at the corporate communication, will also have some intercultural. We'll have some intercultural components, but also looking at how corporations act in terms of sustainability and ethics, et cetera, and how that communication works. And then each semester we'll have the option for students to do a directed research project if they would like to do that, and that would be in conjunction with our site director and a faculty member or a faculty member at OUC. Spring semester, it's a little bit different. We would have the option for media studies, intercultural communication, and again, that directed research project. I don't think I've left anything else out. Let me just see. Yeah. Oh, well, one of the things that I'm excited about with that econ, the environmental economics course is we'll be looking at, because we're on the longest river in Norway, and then having the Mississippi River as a reference, of course, here in Minnesota, but it as a very strong in terms of commerce and transit in the US. So that'll be another interesting way to look at how the similarities and differences there. Let's see. Next, what do I have? So now maybe for something completely different. So we talked about, so the students will be integrated as a cohort together. We'll be pulling in students into those courses through shared projects. And then our students will be living in the residence halls in Fredrikstad. And I don't know, these are beautiful apartments, I have to say. I live there. I'd pay to live there. They're very nice. And all the students will have their own rooms. So private ensuite rooms. There's a shared kitchen that will be shared with other degree-seeking students who are and international students who are students at OUC. Let's see, it's coordinated. Yeah, they have, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So it's coordinated through the student union, and it's and they do lots of activities for students. They are a tremendous support for students. So in addition to our site director, who will be a support for students, they will have the residents, the resident director there as sort of that social support as well. You can see that there's everything's stacked, so no having to go to IKEA. Are there IKEAs in Norway? Would you do such a thing there? Okay. So no need to go to IKEA to buy your pots and pans and plates. It all comes, everything fully furnished. So that's nice. And of course, the essential like workout room, laundry, etc. And they're all app controlled. So, you know, you don't have to sit there and watch your laundry. Meals are self-catered there. So because they have those beautiful kitchens, and everyone has kind of their own half a fridge. So they will be cooking their own food. We will include in the price of the program, we include all the meals, and so we will be giving cash stipends to the students so they can do whatever they want. We're hoping the best option for them will be to use it to buy and cook their own food. Yeah, let's see, what else do we have on? So, health and safety, again, as I mentioned, we've got the support from the student union and the residence halls who are on call 24/7. We have our site director who will be hiring this summer, or well, beginning that process this summer. They will be, of course, a significant part of our health and safety plan. We'll be following our usual CGE emergency protocols that we've been using for years and updating pretty much daily as the world changes. All of our students will be covered at no charge to them with our international health and travel insurance. Oftentimes, of course, they'll have your university zone policy, or, you know, if we're working with Arcadia, their insurance policy as well. So they're like really well insured. It's really fantastic coverage. And we, in addition, have a supplemental mental health counseling available through TELUS student support. And that can be through text, chat, calls, video. There's all of the options, except in person. Through that, our other insurance also covers in-person mental health counseling if, you know, in case of emergencies. And then, of course, we have our staff here in Minneapolis that will oversee health and safety from making sure that we have all the US, you know, compliance issues. And I skipped over the OUC International Office will be very key in our health and safety policy. So and practices. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So yeah, hand it over to you, Lucy.
A lot
Back
about
to you.
health and safety and staffing is a big one. I just wanted to mention as well, again, for some of the folks who aren't as familiar with us, if this type of programming sounds really interesting to you, we also provide the same type of programming in several countries, including Northern Ireland is one of our other European locations. And then we also have programs in Africa, Mexico, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. And Leah mentioned before this wonderful Mississippi River connection. We actually also offer a Mississippi River program where our students paddle in boats down the Mississippi River from Minnesota all the way down to Louisiana. So if that sounds interesting to you, please let me know, and I can follow up later with more information. For folks that are on the call that are coming to us through our Arcadia partnership, Arcadia has also assured me that the Norway program will be in their catalogs very soon as well. So if that's how you found us, you'll be getting a lot of information from them as well about the Norway program. So we are at the Q&A time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a little bit so we can just kind of talk. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. You could also ask in the chat as well if you need to. Just a reminder, like I said, we're recording all of this. So, okay, first question that I see popping up. Who is teaching? Who is teaching the courses? Leah and or Bettina, do you want to field that one?
Yeah, thank you. So we will be teaching, we'll have our site director will be teaching one or two of the courses in collaboration with OUC faculty. We may, depending on the availability of OUC faculty, we may hire an adjunct faculty member, but our current plan is to, and we've got the collaborators who help create these courses are really interested in being involved. So we shouldn't have any trouble there getting them to collaborate. So we'll probably have a bit of a co-teaching model, but yeah. And then the electives are taught by OUC full-time faculty.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Other questions? And the OUC electives are taught in English, so we pulled just the electives
yes.
from the catalog
Yeah.
where they teach in English.
But Norwegian classes are obviously available for as a
Yes, yeah.
second, third, fourth language. Yes, taught in English, but in Norwegian.
Absolutely. Other questions, like I said, feel free to drop it in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask, you can.
Yeah, or any comments, something that struck you as interesting or confusing, or we're so in this, we've been working on this for like 2 years, so it's like we're really excited. So well, perhaps I don't know, perhaps there
I'll
are
unmute
others.
for this one. Sorry, I didn't know the
Oh, thank
protocol.
you.
And I might be showing my bias here as a communication public relations instructor, but what I like about the program's curriculum is you combine your traditional, what I'll call social sciences, Norwegian economic model, the Norwegian welfare state, but there's also media studies, communication, and a corporate comm class that could be attractive to business majors. So I like that combination.
Thanks. Yeah, well, that's what we're really excited that we've got this interdisciplinary approach through all of the courses that we've designed, but then it's complemented through the electives. So, you know, our portfolio, isn't great for business students typically, because by the time most of them decide to study abroad, they need all of their, they need so many business courses. So there are some good options here for business students. And so I think, yeah, I'm excited about that too. Thanks, Michael.
Also, just a comment from the link that Lucy just shared with you. Just want to make sure that, well, it's in the process, but the eco course will also be double listed as an environmental science course.
Cost of the program.
Lucy. No, we didn't talk about that, but it's not bad. Want to go for it?
Yeah, so we don't have the official cost yet. We are working on the
2025.
budgeting process since we are doing this in the fall of 2025. But I'm going to drop a crazy long link in the chat. I'm sorry for those of you familiar with Teradata. It's a Teradata link. But this is our cost table for our other semester programs that we have right now. And we are going to try to have the Norway program be fairly comparable to our Northern Ireland program. And so we'll be charging, a similar tuition cost, and then the room and board might be where it's a little bit more expensive in Norway, but it should be fairly comparable to our Northern Ireland program. I hope to have those official costs for you later this summer, and I will send those out as soon as I have them. But thank you for asking.
Yeah, somewhere around, 23 to 25
Yeah.
all in, everything's included, room, board, insurance, tuition.
And the
etc.
stipend for the meals as well, so that every
that's
student kind
included.
of has that equal footing where they have some money to bring for food every week from us. It's similar to what we do in Northern Ireland. Yeah. Great question. Right. So I don't know if any of you all are thinking about or preparing for NAFSA. It's that time of year. I'll send these links out as well, but Bettina's going to be at NAFSA this year as our representative, and she does have a link already set up. So if you are interested in meeting her in person, asking more questions about this program, go ahead and get yourself on her calendar soon. I will also send this out as well after the recording is done. How many students are you expecting? What is the program capacity? Well, with any program, I think we start out pretty small. Our programs tend to be a little bit on the small side. We're kind of hoping somewhere, honestly, 5 to 10 students just as we start kicking it off. And then as we hope to grow the program, we believe our capacity is going to be around 20 to 25 in a semester. That might change or update as we move forward, but that's sort of what we're thinking right now. Great question. Thank you for asking. And yes, Leonota, we are going to have scholarships for this program as well. And I will.
Yeah, we're lucky. We have some donors that have given money specifically for Nordic studies. So that is something that we haven't always been able to take advantage of at Augsburg, even though we've had the programs. So yeah, so it's nice to have a little bit of, not a ton, but we'll have some good, some good scholarships available.
Absolutely.
Can you speak a little bit about cost of living generally in Norway? I'm familiar with like Sweden and Denmark, and I know even there are significant differences, but just thinking about, I know most of the major expenses are covered for students on the program, but beyond, those things, the things that they would be expected to cover, personal expenses, things like that. Can you just speak a little bit about kind of where that falls?
Yeah, maybe I can speak best to that as a Norwegian American. I would say that in recent years that the prices in the United States have risen so much that I find it to be fairly comparable. Norway prices, even with food. So obviously going out to restaurants, that is a little bit more expensive in Norway than it is here. I would say maybe $10 to $15 more, depending on where you're going. So, and then public transportation is very doable. I think like going round trip from Fredrikstad to Oslo probably is like $40 for a student, maybe even less, because they'll get a student pass and there's student discounts. And then, of course, alcohol. You can drink alcohol in Norway when you're 18. So that maybe it's just something we need to talk about as well. But that's, of course, a lot more expensive than it is in the United States. So beer and
It's a
wine.
good deterrent.
It's a good deterrent, yeah.
To the over
So,
drinking.
but overall, like clothes, I find that the prices are really similar to the United States now. And yeah, so for me, it's mostly just going out to eat at a fancy restaurant or going to have a drink outside. A lot of Norwegians, not that I'm gonna promote drinking here, but a lot of Norwegians have like something they call like a four party. So they actually sit and drink in a place and then they go out and then maybe just buy one drink instead of going out and buying multiple drinks. So that's kind of the way that things are being done in Norway. And there, yeah, so there's thrift shops, and that's a huge thing in Norway too. Oslo has many, many of them. Yeah, and I would say even like getting to Europe from Norway, there are some really good deals on planes and airfare, and so that's probably not going to be too expensive, depending on what and what they can afford, and also their priorities of what they want to do. But yeah, I think the going out to eat is going to probably be the most. And you know, like we said, those apartments have fully equipped kitchens, and I know that maybe some students are, you know, they're so used to living on campus or living in a community where they can just go to the cafeteria and pick up food and just swipe their card. And I don't know if they know how to make food, but hopefully they maybe will learn that while they're in Norway.
And there is a cafeteria and quite decent cafeteria at the university as well.
Yeah,
So
and that is
that's
obviously, Courtney, a cheaper place. It's not considered a, you know, yeah, but like a latte in Norway, I don't know, does it cost 60, 70 crowns? And so that's, you know, the dollar is obviously extremely strong right now, and the Norwegian crown is really, really low in terms of the ratio. But, you know, this is 2025 launch. We don't know what will happen then. But I mean, we easily pay $5 for a latte now. So here, yeah.
Thank you. That's super helpful.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Lucy, like, what is the next steps? Like, if they have interested students, like, what is the next step in terms of like communicating with us?
Sure, absolutely. Well, after today, you know, I'll follow up with folks. I'll send you things like the syllabi, the links to the program pages, and then anything else. Each school that we work with tends to have their sort of individual ways that they approve programs. So, you know, you can go ahead and follow up with me and let me know if there's anything specific that you need filled out if you'd like to approve the program. And we'll get that going for you. And then I'm hoping that this fall, when we kind of do our busy recruiting season, when Joe and I are really on the road meeting your students, we hope to be able to talk to your students about the program in the fall after you've approved it.
Are we already listed in the Teradata directory?
Yes, we're in Teradata
Pterodactyl.
directory. And I'm also on VIA as well. So for any folks that use that, yeah, so we're in all those spots for you right now.
Yeah, and I was just going to kind of echo what Lucy was saying, and also to give a big shout out to my colleagues. Really exciting this morning to learn more about this program. As one of our principal recruiters at Augsburg CGEE, I'm really excited to get out and promote this program, add it to our portfolio. And just to mention, I know that a lot of schools are already starting to plan for fall visits and fairs, et cetera, which I know seems unreal to us all. But calendars are filling up. So if this program speaks to you and you'd be interested in having a rep from CGEE Augsburg come, please reach out. I know many of you that will probably be through Arcadia, which will also be fabulous. But at the same time, if this is your first way of knowing about Augsburg CGEE is through your interest in Norway, as Lucy mentioned, we also have over 40 years of doing really phenomenal experiential programming that focuses on social justice, human rights, decolonization, gender studies. And so if you're interested in learning more about our programs, whether they be in Mexico, our multi-country program in Central America, decolonization and environmental justice in South Africa, Namibia, peace studies and peace building in Northern Ireland, just a lot of really amazing stuff going on. And so it's so exciting to be adding this very exciting program to that repertoire. So don't hesitate to reach out to us if you'd like to learn more about all of those programs, or specifically this one in person this fall. We're excited to see some of you on campuses in the not too distant future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Great. Well, thank you all for attending today. I really appreciate you taking the time. And we'll follow up with you folks. And if you are connected through Arcadia, we'll also have some follow from Arcadia as well. So thank you for being here. Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Good to
Lucy.
see you all. Thanks for being here. Ciao.